Hello dear friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Jarl, and I spend my whole winters in the Arctic with my van, exploring the remote regions of Arctic Norway, Sweden and Finland. I will soon be ready to start on my 2026 journey to the Arctic, and I hope you'll follow along for that. I know many of you have been waiting for this video, and in this video I'm going to show you how I prepare my van for these extreme conditions in the Arctic. My van is a pretty basic build, nothing fancy about it, nothing specially built for Arctic conditions, so I have to do a bunch of stuff to make it work as I want it to work. So let me show you. But first, I'm going to show you how I mount my Starlink on my roof. I've been looking for a permanent way to install the Starlink, and I found one. I got contacted by Veritas Vans, and they sent me a roof mount that I'm going to show you how I install. This video is also sponsored by Veritas Vans. So let's get to it and install this mount. It's a much more permanent solution than what I've had before for my Starlink, and I'm really excited to have this in place for my winter tour. This is gonna make internet so much easier without the hassle of having to take the Starlink outside every time I park up. Alright, so this is gland to go through the roof with the power, and I'm getting that mounted on the roof. Tomorrow I'm going to take that into my usual service shop to get that mounted. So what we got here, magnet plates to mount on the roof, and then we have these magnets. They are super strong. I tried them. And then we have the cable for the roof. This is 10 feet, a bit long. But here's the mount itself. That's pretty cool. So that's pretty much gonna be mounted like this on these magnets. Let's get this frame off. There's that. And Starlink goes in there. It kind of clicks in place. Very neat. Huh. That was pretty cool. And then the frame goes back on. So, good thing here is I can now mount my Starlink permanently on the roof. These magnets here are so strong. I tried one on the side of the van yesterday, and I couldn't get it off without getting a wrench. So it's just super strong. If you have a different kind of vehicle that's not metal, you can put these on top. Then we put magnets on. "10-feet cable here. And that is the power cable for the outside. Goes in there. And then I'm gonna get this gland mounted tomorrow on the roof, and it's gonna be like that. Yeah, that's very well sealed. We'll see what we do. Then we got the power from the Starlink here. Let's see if it's all connected. So here's my cable with power. Goes in there. And the light is on. Yeah, perfect. So that's all working. So there we got it. This is my new Starlink mount. Can't wait to get this just mounted on top of the roof and have a cable come through somewhere. Either in here, or I'm gonna get it through here where the solar panel also come through. Alright, so I got the gland and hole through the roof completed. Now I got the cable, the power cable for the Starlink coming down here, and that's where it's going through. So now I'm gonna put the Starlink on the roof using this cable here, and I'm gonna find a way to attach this to the roof as well. That's a pretty solid ceiling there. Now I'm gonna have a cable gate here. I'll place the Starlink here. Let's cut it there. Okay, let's just see if we have power. Yep. There it is. Ooh. And that's it. Alright, so I was able to attach the cable and have it go behind here, so it's out of the way. Excellent, that's done. Great mount for the Starlink. So thank you so much, Veritas Vans, for sending this to me. This is gonna be perfect for my needs. I'll put the link to their website in the description below, so you can find it. It's in California, and they shipped it all the way to me here in Norway, and everything worked flawlessly. So got a permanent Starlink mount that I can remove because it's magnets. So excellent stuff. All right, let's continue. I'm going to try to give you a detailed look into how I prep my van for the extreme Arctic winters. I'm going to start by asking you to like the video and subscribe if you enjoy my content. Really appreciate that. Anyway, so let's move on to the van. The van is built on a Fiat Ducato 2021 model, and it's built by Sunlight, and I've modified it with batteries and insulation and stuff like that, but nothing crazy. The van is a pretty basic build, and it's not built for Arctic conditions really, but I've modified it as well as I've been able to, and it works really well for my use, and I take it through some pretty extreme conditions, but it's not special built for Arctic winters at all. So my Fiat Ducato has a very small engine. I think it's 120 horsepower, a 2.3 multi-jet engine, and it's got a manual transmission. It's a diesel engine, of course. Most vehicles or vans up here are diesel engines. It's not a four-wheel drive, it's a front-wheel drive. You can get out of a few more situations if you have 4x4. Sometimes I have to dig, and my friends with four-wheel drive, they'll just drive straight out. But in the end, it's the tires that matter. The diesel engine is running on winter fuel in winter, so it can handle lower temperatures. And I think it's usually rated to -36 to -40 degrees Celsius for winter diesel up here in the north. So that's usually not a problem either. But I've heard people getting trouble if it gets colder than that, or if they haven't filled up with winter diesel, basically. Vehicles that are sold in Norway, any vehicles, come with fluids that can handle lower temperatures. So we don't really have an issue with the coolant and the oil or any of the fluids in the van having any issues. I see people that come from the UK and further south often get problem with the coolant freezing, but we don't have those issues with the vans that are sold here, or any vehicles for that matter. So all the fluids are basically working without any modifications, and also the AdBlue or the DEF, that's not been an issue. They say that it can only handle temperatures down to -14, I think. But I've been down to -35 and never had any issues with that. And I don't know why, and I don't know what kind of issues I could get if I got an issue, but it's never been a problem. So that's the engine and fuel and the fluid side of my van. I haven't done anything there, really. So the Truma Combi 4 heater is sitting here under my seat, and it's running right now on electricity. This is a highly efficient heater and probably one of the best units you can have for your van. It's quite pricey though, but this comes standard with most European vans, basically. And as you can see, it's got all these ventilation ducts going out here, here under the seat, over there, and here by the entrance. There's one here. There's one inside the bathroom here. And there's one back in the storage or the garage, back in there. Here's the control panel for the heater and the boiler that I do not use in winter. And as you can see now, it's heating up. And right now I'm doing electricity. But I can swap here to mixing electricity and propane. And I can do only propane. Right now it's electricity. Here's the control panel for water tank and the gray water, and that's blinking, meaning it's empty. Gray water is empty. Battery is full. So I have lithium batteries now, so this is only giving like an indication showing that it's full up now, but it doesn't really have any effect any longer. And this is my tiny weather station. I have one weather sensor on this one right here, and then there's a cable that I put outside, but now it's just hanging here inside. So, of course, I bring a lot of winter equipment. I bring shovel for digging myself out. I bring a big brush and something to scrape the ice off the windows. That's a really important tool. If you get snowed in and you don't have a shovel or a brush or an ice scrape, you're gonna be in trouble. So I bring that. I've tried various brands and various sizes, but I've ended up on a pretty big brush that I can get up on the sunroof and scrape the snow off my entire roof with a telescoping brush, basically. I used to bring a big broom, but I don't think that's necessary with the new brush that I got. I bring several ice scrapes just to be able to have several options depending on what kind of ice is on the windows. And of course the shovel. I bring an emergency shovel that you use in the backcountry for avalanches and digging stuff in the snow while you're out skiing. That's small and it doesn't take up much space, and for me that's been excellent. It's a little bit more work to dig yourself out of situations, but it's pretty much okay. I'm considering getting a little bit bigger shovel this year, or like a snow shovel that'll move more snow quickly, because it can be a little bit time consuming sometimes if you need to move a lot of snow away from the road in front of you to get back on the road. Might get a bigger shovel this year. Now I have my great winter tires that I really love, the Norwegian Xplorer, and I've never had much of an issue using those to get out of any situation. Sometimes I have to dig a little bit if the snow is too high. I've only had to use my chains once over these several years here, and that was on a really flat surface with this much snow and then just plain ice underneath it, and I couldn't get a grip on my wheels. It was completely flat and it would just spin. So I had to put my chains on in that one occasion only. But I do bring chains just for safety, and I know that I can put those on and get out of some situations where I would be completely stuck. But it's not a big deal, and here in Norway we don't drive around with chains on. Trucks will do it while going across mountain passes and stuff like that, but for normal vehicles, vans or normal cars, it's a very rare thing to use because we have such great winter tires. All right, it's time for my least favorite winter prep, and that is to change into my winter tires. It's nearing the end of October, and it's getting below freezing even down here in the lowlands, so it's time for winter tires. Let's get it done. These are my winter tires. These are Nokian Hakkapeliitta CR3 studless winter tires. There's my summer tires. And it's 225/75 R16 CP. That's made by Continental. That's my summer tires. It's got the van symbol there. Soon time to change the brakes. Let's get this first one on. So I swap the tires now. I rotate them, so these were my back tires last season. Now they're gonna be my front tires. $160 Newton meters. I do, of course, check one more time with this after everything is mounted. And then I drive for 50 kilometers or 30 miles and then I check again. Alright, there's that done. And that's the least favorite thing of the winter prep for me, so very happy to have that sorted. Okay, let's continue. Returning to this question about the all-terrain tires, and we in Norway don't consider those proper winter tires, even if they have the snow symbol for mud and snow on them. You need to get some proper Nordic winter tires to be equipped like you should be up here. And those can be without spikes or with spikes. My preferred brand is Nokian, but I know that Continental and Michelin and other brands have good Nordic winter tires as well. All-terrain, mud and snow does not qualify as proper winter tires. They are rated for certain conditions. Further down in Europe, they can handle a little bit of winter weather, but not the stuff we got up here. Still, people use them and people survive with them, so I'm not going to judge on that. That is kind of what we think up here in Norway, that you need proper winter tires. And it is the most important thing to staying safe on the roads here. It's the tires on your van. Get some good tires if you're going to get into a situation like this. I do put a front cover on the engine for winter when it's getting cold, or if it's a blizzard, or if it's snowing a lot sideways in a big snowstorm or something. But the cover for the engine is mostly for the cold, so that I can keep my engine warm while driving. Because if you have minus 20 degrees Celsius outside and you're driving into it, the engine will get so cold that you won't be able to heat up the inside of the van. You'll only get cold air coming through the vents. So you need to add a cover to just have the engine reach its right operating temperature. And it's also good if there's a blizzard, because it's going to stop some of the snow from blowing into the engine compartment. I always park into the wind when there's a blizzard, and sometimes I get snow in the engine compartment. It's never been a big issue, but I've had a couple of times I had to thaw out the engine compartment before I took the chance of driving. Usually it just melts itself out, and if you have a warm engine, the snow that blows inside will melt before it accumulates. But it's good to have a cover, especially for the cold. So I made one myself, nothing fancy. I just attach it with strip ties, and it does its job. I've been considering getting a different color, making something a different color to make it look a little bit more cool, but I haven't done that yet. We'll see. Maybe I will. For this season, I have a week or two left before I leave, but we'll see. I don't bring traction boards. I have some really cheap ones, but I don't bring any fancy traction boards. I have tiny ones from a small store here that I could take out, but I've never had the use for traction boards. And I do see everyone that comes from outside of Norway or Sweden, they bring traction boards here, but I've never had the use for them either in summer or in winter, and I don't think it's necessary really to bring traction boards. To me, that's never been important, and I never used the small ones that I bring with me. They look cool on the outside of the van. That might be the main purpose of traction boards sometimes. Now let's get back to the water. In winter, I empty all my water from my van, and I bring 2 10-liter containers that I have fresh water in. That's drinking water, or mostly coffee water, and also for washing and cleaning and stuff like that. And I just boil it on the stove if I need warm water. First thing I do is to empty out all of the water from my van. I'm gonna start with the boiler, and that's got a vent here. That's a safety valve, and now it should start emptying under the van. There's the water from the boiler. Clean water. And then we got the clean drinking water, which is under here. It needs proper turn there to empty everything. Then we're just going to leave that open. There we go. Gonna be quite a bit of water coming out here, but it's clean drinking water. So I'm gonna finalize my water winterizing on the van. And what I do then is, now that my tanks are emptied, I go to the faucet and I basically first switch off the power that powers the water pump and everything else. And now it got really dark in here, but what I do then is I open the water pump here. Since there's no electricity, it doesn't do anything, but it's now open. Then I blow into the faucet like this, and you can hear it's circling. You can hear the water running out of the water pump. You can of course also put a balloon on top here, but the main thing is to open the tap here and have the power off so you don't run the water pump. Then it kind of just goes out into the tank and it drains out there if that's open. So done on this one, and then I'm gonna do the same in here. So open this and water running out there, and then close it. The water pump is one of the most fragile areas. That's where people tend to get the most damage if they don't drain the water out from the water pump. So that's all good now, and we should be ready water-wise. So in winter, for showers and for cleaning, I need to go to gas stations or truck stops or campsites that are still open that offer showers. And I go there to get a shower or to clean up. And then I'll just boil water and use washing cloth or towels and stuff to clean up in between. Also use a lot of wet wipes in winter. That's a good thing to have, wet wipes with no perfume or anything, so you can get a little bit clean in between the showers. My toilet, my cassette toilet, has been working fine every winter. I still use that. And that's one of the main things about being in a van for me, having a toilet. And that's just so much better than having to go outside or find a place to stop or something. I never had a problem with the toilet freezing up. The cassette toilet is inside the bathroom, basically. So it's inside the wall. And it's pretty thick cassette, but on the coldest days I do put some antifreeze inside the toilet just to make sure that it can handle even lower temperatures. And I never had an issue with anything freezing in the toilet, so that works fine. A cassette toilet inside here, and it's not as exposed as the pipes, the water pipes that run along the walls or along the floors. They will freeze up, so that's one of the reasons why I don't have water at all in any of the tanks, and that I empty it completely. Because no matter how warm you keep it inside, if it's minus 20 or colder outside, those pipes will freeze along the wall and something will break and you have a big repair. So I'm not taking my chances with water in the tanks or the grey water tank. The grey water tank is heated, and I could use that, but I still don't trust it. There's too many things that could go wrong, so I'm not using that. I'm just keeping it completely water-free in the system here, and no water in the boiler either. So this winter I am considering maybe taking a few days when it's warmer and fill up the tanks and, you know, get showers and stuff like that in between. We'll see. I haven't decided on that yet. Alright, I got a new starter battery, so that's good to go for the winter. Should be easier to start than my aging starter battery that I had. That's been bugging me for a while, but now it's sorted. The van's been sitting for around 24 hours since I installed the new starter battery. My battery pack for the living area has now gone down to 99%, and I just thought I would check if it's working, the charging from the alternator. It should of course work, but it's good to check. 400 watts or 30 amps at 12 volts. That's actually better than I used to. So here are both my living area batteries, and here's the summary. So yeah, that's definitely working. have no idea about what all of this stuff is here, but this is my extra charger that's sitting over here, like where I put my 12 volt in to charge the power station. All looking good, I think. Might want to get my vacuum cleaner out and get some of this stuff. So I just changed my starter battery for this winter, and I'm always bringing a NOCO engine starter for the battery. Up here in winter it's good to have. I've used it once and my battery was flat, and that was in summer basically because I emptied it charging my power station and I forgot. And that's also the reason why I changed my starter battery for this season. So the battery is fresh and new, and I'm also bringing the NOCO battery starter if I should get a problem with the battery again, or if it should be too cold or whatever it is. So I also have a new battery pack for my living area this season. I pretty much doubled my battery capacity to get more power in the living area. New batteries installed here. There's one, and then there's another one behind there. So 2 times 180 amp hours at 12 volts, that's 360 amp hours. So here's my batteries now. This has been sitting here with the fridge on and some other small things for 5 days now without using it. Got 360 amp hours and it's down to 95% now. And in this app I can see both batteries here, and there's like a summary here. So got 650 hours left ish if I don't use more than this. So these new batteries from Scanbat, they have a built-in heat, which means that it'll use the power from the alternator to heat up the battery to the charging temperature where the BMS will open for charging once it reaches 5 degrees Celsius. So it should work in winter as well. I've had the Scanbat battery the previous seasons and it works, but sometimes you gotta give it a little bit extra push to get up the heat if it's super cold. It can get down to like -10 to -15 down on the floor. So this is a question I get a lot, and that is if my van has an engine preheater, and it does not. And I should have had an engine preheater, of course. I would have loved to have one of those expensive German ones, but it's super expensive to install in the van in Norway, and I haven't really had a lot of problem with starting the engine. I've had once where I couldn't start it, but that was a user error. An engine preheater from Webasto would probably be the best, but it's so expensive, and I don't do everything that I could do on this van because there are some things that are just not the number one priority always. So you can tell me to get this, and you can tell me to get that, and you can tell me to get, you should get. It's probably the most common comment that I get on here. And I know what I can get, but everything costs money, and there's a limit to the time that I have in the fall and in the spring to actually do things and get things installed and fix things, because the waiting times are so long and it's so much of a hassle many times. So I do skip certain things, but a Webasto heater, of course, for the engine would be amazing. But I don't have that, and right now I'm not planning on getting that either. Haven't really had any issues with starting. You know, you could save the engine some wear and tear by not doing cold starts, but that's not something I'm gonna do for this season. So there's one thing I haven't brought that I should bring, and that is a rope to be towed out of something, or to be able to tow others out of something. And that's something I've plainly forgotten whenever I've been to a store. So I don't bring a rope at this time, but I will. So you should bring a rope. That's good for safety. Maybe I should have Matt's Off-Road Recovery send me a rope, one of their elastic ropes, since I'm wearing their ball cap all the time. I think I have it over here. Yeah. All right. So send me a rope, Matt.
We're good. Yeah.
All right, so gonna talk a little bit about winter insurance here in Norway. So insurance here in Norway is quite easy in many ways. You call one of the main insurance companies and they'll insure you. There's an RV insurance policy which includes a lot of things, including, you know, moisture and engine insurance and all of that stuff. I wouldn't say it's expensive, but it depends on the driving distance every year. So this year I'm doing 20,000 kilometers and the insurance is around 15, 16, 17,000 Norwegian kroner a year. So that's like, that's $1,500 or $1,700 a year. And that's a full coverage of the van. It also includes recovery with an out-of-pocket of 750 kroner, which is $75. So there's not really anything special you need to do as a Norwegian. It's the same insurance for summer and winter. It's not like you need Arctic insurance or snow insurance or ice insurance or anything. Now, another question I get a lot is, what do you do if your heater fails or anything like that? And that is one of the most important safety things for surviving up in the Arctic in winter. You need to have a redundancy system. And my redundancy system has several layers of redundancy. You know, first layer is, of course, the van with its built-in heater and everything working as it should. If the heater should stop working, I'm going to the next level, which is the van itself and the heating system of the vehicle. That's a separate heating system that runs off the engine of the van and runs off the diesel fuel. And that's gonna work if the Truma Combi 4 heater stops working. And next level is if that fails as well, if the van should be inaccessible or if it should flip over or whatever, then I have the winter backcountry gear with me. I have 2 winter tents from Hilleberg in Sweden, which are proper winter tents. And I have a winter sleeping pad and a crazy good winter sleeping bag from Western Mountaineering. It's called Bison, actually. And it's a full-on minus 40 degrees winter sleeping bag that will keep me safe and alive if everything else should fail. So that's like moving outside and living out in a tent in the sleeping bag outside. That would still work. For the inside, I have some really good stuff that keeps me warm because I don't keep the van too warm through the night. I keep it at like 10 degrees Celsius. And what I do is I bought this alpaca wool blanket in Yellowstone National Park. And that's the warmest blanket I've ever had. That is so crazy good to have on top of my down duvet. and it's just the warmest and nicest blanket I've ever used. I also have 2 more woolen blankets with me. That is an extra layer of warmth. And of course, I bring all my winter clothing. I have some big down jackets and parkas, and I have winter pants, I have ski bibs, I have a lot of long johns, woolen long johns from Norwegian brands that are really good in winter. And I got hoodies, I got gloves, I got woolen socks, and I got some really good winter boots that are Canadian made, that are good for serious cold. So all that winter gear is very important to have, because if you walk outside, you need proper clothing. One thing I get asked a lot is, oh, why don't you wear ski goggles when you're outside in a blizzard? And that's rarely necessary at all. It's something that I would put on if I was gonna go walking on skis or something, but I have ski goggles and never put them on. They're not really necessary to have just for walking outside the van or something like that, but I do have them, and I know exactly when to use them. One thing I haven't mentioned is that for the sunroofs, I have one big sunroof here, one small one in the bedroom area, and I have a small one in the bathroom. And I cover those up. I have something that I just duct tape in place for the bathroom, because that gets really windy in there if there's a blizzard or something. And I got that Temu thing. That's working well for the back sunroof, and I have another thing that I just made from some insulation material for the large sunroof here. And of course I have insulation mats for the front windows and the side windows in the cabin of the van up here, in the driver's cabin. And I keep those either with the silver side in or the silver side out. It doesn't really matter. I've tried both and I cannot feel any difference. I don't think it has any real practical difference. So you might see my van with the silver out or the silver in, and they say the heat will reflect in if you have the silver facing inwards, but I haven't really felt any difference. I think it's okay either way. And I got these insulation mats for the cabin floor this year. That's from the same company that makes the back door insulation. It's a thermal insulation that insulates the footwell and the footroom of the driving cabin, and I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more insulation for that area, because that's one of the areas where it's leaking a lot of cold inside. There's cold bridges up there in the cabin. This is the first time I'm going to use that this season. I'm going to open that now and see how it fits. Should help with an area that has a lot of cold coming in on the coldest days. Should be Hinderman brand, which is the same as the thermal insulation I use for my back door. Footwell insulation. Yeah, so it's the exact same material as my back door insulation. Offers effective protection against heat loss in the footwell area and slows down cold from infiltrating. Snow installation instructions, but probably quite self-explanatory. So basically, goes around the seats like this, and it blocks the footwell out there. So well, that's that. Another attempt at getting some temporary insulation for the coldest days. Alright, so that's a new thing. Alright, so my most important thermal insulation for the van is the thermal cover for the back doors. That's the weakest point of the Fiat Ducatos, basically. So this year I'm gonna go from using just Velcros to actually mounting it with click-on buttons. Basically, I used these Velcros the 3 previous years, or the 2 previous years, but now I want to mount it using the clip-ons here, and that needs to be fastened with screws going permanently into the upholstery on the van. So I need to get these placed in the right sequence. These are tiny screws that are gonna hold 6 of these in place to carry the weight of the thermal cover. So that's measured out. Now I can basically use this as a pattern for where to attach the screws. So the Velcros tend to slide when it gets warmer, but with the buttons in place, it should stay in one place. And now I'm just gonna add some more Velcros, I think, to the side here, possibly. We'll see. I've also considered getting like a full close off, so I close off the cabin with a full insulation, but I have swivel chairs and stuff, and it's not really practical. Now also, my van windows here are double. They don't need the same kind of insulation like many people that I see a lot of people that use those magnetic covers. I don't have that need because I have this cover here in addition, and that's got thermal insulation on the outside. So this is pretty well insulated window area as it is. If I can get the lights installed before I leave, then it's gonna be much lighter outside for me to film. through these because they're also heat insulated from the outside, like they're tinted so that the sun doesn't penetrate as much. So they're very dark, and when it's dark outside, you can't see anything unless you have something lighting up the outside. All right, we're back again trying to get some external lighting installed on my van, and it's October 31st today. It's been a few weeks with getting parts and stuff, so now I'm gonna go back to mechanics and see what we figure out. Let's see. I know a lot of you are excited to see what happens with the external lighting, so external lighting, not lightning. So let's go and have a look. Alright, so I got some lights that I'm gonna test out. Just put them on the side of the van with the duct tape and give it a test run and see about placement and stuff like that. So let's have a look at this lamp here. This is kind of like 4 LEDs here, and it mounts pretty flush with the side of the van. So let's get some power to it and see how it looks on the outside. Okay, gonna test it up here. Oh yeah. That's a pretty strong light. That tiny light there lights up the field here pretty good. I might get 2 on each side of this, but I don't know if you can see this, but they're very flush with the side of the van. Let's go inside and see. All right, so now it's looking out the window, and there's the light. These windows are so dark tinted that it's crazy. But that's completely dark. And there's the light. Yeah, so that's definitely gonna make a huge difference when there's a blizzard raging outside. You can actually see something. And so with some internal lights here, alright, I think that's what I'm gonna go for with my van on each side. Have a few of those. So here's a more forward placement above the door instead of the window. I think either is fine. You have to remember I bought the cheapest van that was relatively new that I could find when I bought this one, so it's not special built or it's not made for any special conditions. I think it's more interesting to make a basic van work than having something bomb-proof that cost you millions of dollars. Where's the fun in that? You gotta be able to survive in something normal. It's not like I'm gonna buy an earth roamer or something like that. That's not my style. I want to make something basic and normal work in the conditions we have up here. So that's kind of my motivation for having this pretty basic van. It's not old. It's a 2021 model, so it's still under warranty for a few more months, but it's a basic van. And to me, the fun is to make that work in these extreme Arctic conditions. So basic van it is for me. I hope you will follow me on my Arctic tour for the 2026 season. I think it's going to be super exciting, and it's going to be a long winter. And I'm excited to try all these things, like the permanent Starlink mount and the new insulation stuff. Even the Temu stuff I'm excited to try out. That's going to be pretty exciting. That's going to help a lot. Yeah, on the coldest days, this is gonna work pretty well, I think. You can open that's some much needed insulation, and it goes around here, which is excellent. Alright, so I've been through a lot of my winter prep here now. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask in the comment section. It's one of my favorite things to do, to have conversations with all of you friendly people here. I can't wait to be out there in the extreme Arctic. So thanks for watching, and I hope I gave you some answers about how I prepare my van. If you want to see where I travel, you can sign up to Patreon, or you can sign up as a member here on YouTube, and I post all my maps here and on Patreon so that you can follow along and see where I've been, see my best campsites, see my places of interest, service areas, and roads, of course. So that's what I have for you for the van upgrades. Everything is in shape, and should be good to go soon.